The crisis we have ongoing today is the worst we have seen in our lifetime. And I'm going to show you why it's not just in one location. This is a global phenomenon. And then I'm going to show you what you must do right now. So let's begin by taking a look here at the world's second largest steelmaker closing European plant. I want to emphasize something. This is not just in Europe. In fact, it's all over the world. You can see this, as you will note. You don't have one location, you don't have one particular instance at which this is occurring. It seems to be happening more and more as the time goes on. As the weeks go on, I'm noticing this to actually be accelerating. Now, that is a big concern, okay? You're going to find this to be an issue for everyone, whether you are in a situation in which the gas prices are too high, or maybe there's a water shortage, or maybe one place there's this or that. There seems to be a problem going on everywhere. And if people don't take action and initiative today, they're going to be left in the dust. And I'll get into that at the end of this video. The world's second largest steelmaker is the latest industrial company to announce a plant closure in Europe due to the soaring gas and energy prices. They will shut down one of its two blast furnaces at its steel works site in Bremen, Germany, from the end of September until further notice. So what are they trying to say here? What are they actually highlighting? That they are going to shut down production because the costs are too high. Electricity is too high. Natural gas is too high. Expenses are too high. Whatever you want to call it, that's the way it works. But isn't this an issue when you do not have the economic engine running? Well, then where does all the input come from? Where does the output go? Nothing's happening. It's a standstill. That's what we saw in 2020. And of course, the GDP, as one measure of that, declines. And you can bump that up and you can push that down in different ways. But you have to understand, this is the economy. If the economy is not strong, where are the jobs? If the blast furnace is closed down, where are the jobs? This is just one example. So let me show you here as we look further on. This is high energy prices shutting down two plants in Germany. Okay? One after the other after the other. Drought diminishes hydropower capacity in Western US. I think that this is one that we are not prepared for whatsoever because, hydropower, as they say here in this report, hydropower represents 19% of total electricity produced globally. Now, that was interesting to me. I did not know it was that high. But here you have a problem if there's no water, if it's drying up, if you have concerns one way, shape, or form with hydropower. Now we've got a problem because now they got to bring in power from other places. And now you see the costs rising. All of a sudden, there's more demand coming in, and that pushes prices even further, doesn't it? Hydropower production taking a hit in river basins in the US West, where prolonged drought has reduced water volumes available for power production. The generation of hydroelectricity depends on the funneling of large quantities of water from elevated heights through power plants typically found inside dam structures. When the water levels at lakes and reservoirs held back by these dams drop below benchmark elevations, the force of water pressure needed to turn the blades in the hydro turbines is lessened, affecting the productivity. As a result, electricity production on these dams has been curtailed or even discontinued. Now, what do you think would happen in this case here? Well, obviously, people don't get enough electricity. Electricity prices increase. This is why I tell people all the time, you need to have your preparation in place. You need to make those strides for yourself. The government cannot supply you with everything that you need. Your 401k, your RRSP, your super, do not rely on that. It seems to be going to be going the way of the dodo bird, if you will. If you look at this in terms of power, in terms of food, in terms of protection, everything you must handle on your own, or you must have enough wealth that you can afford to make sure that somebody else is taking care of that for you. But I think for the majority of people, if you are able to sort of be more self-sufficient than, let's say, your neighbors or the general public, then certainly you are better off. And I know many of my subscribers are, but do not take this for granted. We are in a situation now where we still have some control. Water management challenges. Today, nearly 40, this was shocking to me, 40 million people in the 7 Colorado River Basin states, Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming rely on the Colorado River and its tributaries for some, if not all, of their municipal water needs. Now, what do you think is going on here? The same situation. You got drought, you got problems, and this is going to spell not just higher prices, but potentially devastating consequences. Austria bails out Vienna energy supplier. Now you're going to see this. It's kind of like what's happening in China with the real estate sector. Now you've got it with the property, with the power in Austria. This is just one example. I'm sure we're going to see many more of this, okay? Austria on Wednesday announced it would bail out the country's main energy supplier with a 2 billion euro loan as prices have jumped across Europe over the war in Ukraine. It's been much more than that, of course. You know, there's problems here that are fundamental, but I think it's important that we just see what's going to happen in the future. One company, okay, you know what happens. Companies fail, government comes in, rescues. If this starts happening over and over again, you can't. This is what I will say about this particular issue, and I'll say the same thing about what's happening in China and so on. You cannot believe that a bailout resolves a problem. It doesn't resolve a problem, okay? It temporarily takes that away from, in this case, let's say it's a private company, okay? That's a private company. It's got debt, it's got finances, it's got employees. And now the government steps in because of one issue or another. The government steps in and they say, we're going to take it over. The problem didn't go away. It was transferred from private to public. And that means you, the individual taxpayer. The problem didn't disappear. You pay for it. I think that people are completely misguided in what a bailout is. Now, you can wipe out debt and you could do all these fancy things, but it's never going to actually resolve the issue. The debt will be there, and that means higher costs for you or reduced services. Okay, they can do it in two ways, and likely they'll do both. So here we have, looking at this, the next aspect. If you see this, tens of thousands protest in Prague against Czech government, EU, and NATO. Now, this is just one thing, of course. I look at this and I see, you know, there's a lot. Let me show you a couple things here. There's massive rallies that are taking place, but they also added in that they were protesting about demanding lower gas and electricity prices and neutrality on what's happening with Ukraine. You look at this, 50,000 people. Is it 70,000? Is it 50,000? Is it 10,000? I don't know, but a lot of people were gathered together. They're upset for one reason or another. Now, what I would say is, to me, it doesn't matter if it's about Ukraine. It doesn't matter. It's about, you know, all these things. People get upset. People will protest. There will be civil unrest if there isn't prosperity. If there was so much cash flowing in, if there was this abundance mentality, people wouldn't be taking it to the streets. But of course, they're upset. Their gas prices are higher. Their housing costs have gone up. Their electricity, their food prices, everything is higher today. And so, of course, they're dealing with these issues. And I think it is very concerning right now to see it all piling up on top of each other for people, because we're going to see civil unrest all over the place. It is happening right now today. So you need to be mindful of this. Stick with me because I'm going to show you what's going on. Don't despair, okay? We got some activities that we need to take care of. Mortgage demand falls even further as rates shoot back up to July highs. This is something that I just want to highlight because of what's happening with mortgages. Mortgages are a problem. Why? Interest rates are higher, and there are so many things that are happening today that people just don't realize. That yes, we can have higher rates. It is possible, believe it or not, and we are dealing with that right now. Higher rates, higher borrowing costs, more debt is very painful, and people are dealing with more debt today. The economy starts to slow down, and then you have even more of a crisis, and it spirals out of control. So this is what I wanted to show you right here. what you must do. And I thank you for staying until the end of this video. Focus all time and energy on building a stronger base of preparation. So you might like to scroll through Instagram, but I don't think that's probably the best thing for you to do. Okay, now that's not me judging anybody, that's just what I say. You might like to dig down the rabbit hole and like to know every little nuance of this and that. Is that the best use of your time and energy right now? You must ask yourself that question. So when you're doing these activities, ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? Next thing, increase income as much as possible to buffer rising costs. And that might be, easier said than done. I understand that. But many times with your current employer, particularly if you're a contractor, there are ways to do this. It's easier, certainly in some jobs than others, but you can simply ask your superior that if you hit particular metrics, are you able to give a raise? And some people, they'll say, absolutely not. And what people are doing is they're simply quitting and they go to a different business and they will pay more. There are many instances where staying at a company, you don't want to leave very often, but staying at a company for just a handful of years is a much better thing to do than staying for a much longer time. Okay, because that 3% raise is simply not going to keep up with inflation. So, staying for, let's say, 3 years will get you another 15 to 20% raise each time, what I'm seeing. So people get comfortable. I understand. I completely understand. But we need to be worried about our bottom line. And that was just one example. But do what you have to do within the confines of your own working environment to increase the amount of money that you make right now. Warren Buffett likely sees high energy prices for the foreseeable future. So he's buying Occidental Petroleum hand over fist. Okay? That's what he's doing. Should you do the same? I'm not suggesting you should do the same as him. I'm just letting you know. And the reason I mention that is because investing in the commodities or companies that profit from higher prices offsets rising personal expenses. So just an example, if you were to invest in oil and you see oil prices going up, they kind of balance each other out. Not directly, of course, but that's kind of the situation. So if you see what I'm saying here, we need to look at things a little bit differently. We need to focus our time and energy. In my first book, I wrote about the very first thing in the book, for those who have read it, is about time. We only have 24 hours in a day, no matter where we live, no matter if it was 10 years ago or 100 years from now, we've got 24 hours in a day. We need to make best use of that. And then we need to sort of look around and where we can apply the capital that we have and make sure that it's doing the best thing it can for us. Okay, the time, the energy, the money, all of those come together. That's it. If you found the video informative, you've got to subscribe right down below. This channel is going to give the best detail that you can find anywhere. So appreciate you being here. See you on the next one. Take care.